Hey, Aaron. All right, so good morning, Ms. Wilson.
Good morning.
So last week, we set a goal of creating an illusion of speed by using a timer to stick to the timestamps in the lesson and give students an audio cue that is like time to move on. So I noticed how you placed a timer on each of the slides so the students were able to see the time as they progress through the activity.
Yes. Although we were having some internet issues on,
Yeah, we saw it, but the big thing was like they saw it, and then you offered a verbal cue, that what essentially what time it was.
Yeah, and FYI, that still hasn't been fixed. Videos embedded in Google Slides are blocked now by the network. Yes.
So
all videos.
Then that's something that I'll check on.
Okay. You know how they adjust the filters, and sometimes they accidentally filter something that's not a problem.
That should be easy fix. Just contact Matthew. So what do you, before that happened, what do you think made that successful?
Made having a timer successful?
Having a timer in the slides. Or even giving kids the verbal cue.
Okay. I think it makes no surprises. Kids feel like they they have a better sense of how much they can actually get done in that class period, and so they're not I don't know, feeling betrayed at the end when I'm time's up. I think that it helps kids not feel like they have to track me down anytime that they need to know how much time is left, or if they forget what time class ends, or if they don't know how to read a non-digital clock. All of those things they could just check on it themselves, and then it doesn't become a big deal.
Awesome, and also I love the fact that you begin the countdown. Hey guys, you have about 5 minutes remaining, which also seems very helpful. So even having the timer displayed as a visual reminder for kids is also great. The kids have the the audio reminder as well. So today I want to dive into the element of the lesson where students were working on the graphs. So the part of the lesson that we observed. You had a group back here. There was maybe a group here, and then there was a group up front. As they were completing the actual posters for the Raisin in the Sun, and we had an opportunity to observe the kids in the media center. I want to give a big shout out. I forgot her name, Aaliyah and Taquasia, and they absolutely killed it. They were on point. They knew why they were doing it. Aaron and I were asking some pretty rigorous questions and allowed them to do cognitive lift, and they had it. So I saw that it was a great measure of differentiation. Where it's you had those kids there who had it, and then kids who may have needed more support in this space. So what was the objective or goal for that activity exactly?
That was your review activity. They took a quiz the next day on Friday. So that was to consolidate knowledge. And practice the kinds of questions that they're going to be answering, and bring together knowledge that different students all have so that they can all look at it and review it in a concise place.
And then so when you were circulating around the room, what ideally did you want to see / hear from kids?
Students asking each other questions. Students kind of making a coordinated plan for who's going to do what when. It's a model that you've seen me use before, where there are 4 options, and they as a group decide who gets what option, and they have to decide it in a way that is equitable but not necessarily equal. So choosing an option that actually works for each student. which had mostly happened before you came in there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, from what you saw, like it obviously was going pretty well. Otherwise, you would have seen it crashing and burning. So
yeah. So I noticed that there were 2 students in the front. I want to say maybe here. They were not quite working. There were like 2 of them who were, I can't remember the actual 2 scholars.
Mehindle and Shakim.
And they were not quite working, or they were kind of moving at a pace, that wasn't going to allow them to complete the assignment in the amount of time that was allotted.
Or maybe TJ. TJ was sitting in that chair.
I forget the actual two guys. Now, see, I think the biggest thing that I have to do better is go and recording it, so I actually have it stamped and know exactly like who the 2 students are. So I noticed that they weren't working or weren't pushing at the same pace. As you kind of circulating around, what do you believe the impact that may have on their learning on their learning in that moment? Because they obviously have like receive independent practice, or we're doing independent practice at that point. In that group assignment, they all had like one given task.
Right.
In each box, right? So one of them were the reviewer or the investigator or something like that. But again, those kids weren't like quite working or were kind of pseudo working. So what impact do you think that may have on their learning?
Well, they won't learn it as well as everyone else.
Yeah. So interesting to see, and I was wondering if theirs were kind of, if their graphs were located on the wall out there, because I wanted to see what that looked like compared to the actual exemplar that you had posted at the front. So again, I noticed that you were circulating the room, but those students weren't provided like in the moment feedback as you were circulating. So it looks like you were spending an equal amount of time in like every station, but when you moved over circulating around that group, they weren't receiving like in the moment feedback to push them forward in the assignment.
So feedback such as like work faster.
That could be a verbal cue.
Okay.
Or, and which is going to be the action step in just a second. Looking at ways in which we can aggressively monitor, and maybe keeping a clipboard and having some we keep a pen in hand where you can actually give a kid like in the moment cues and like you're there, you're getting there, you're not so much, right? But maybe creating like some image that represents that, and kids would know exactly what that means.
Okay.
So it's kind of, so I think we launch forward on this one, but the key action step that I would like to discuss is like monitoring the quality of student work as you circulate the room. Okay. So again, you're already circulating the room, but again, when those students are they could have been stuck, or the kids may not have the stamina in the moment to keep pushing forward. But as you circulate the room, being able to monitor aggressively to ensure we're pushing those kids forward on the assignment.
Okay.
So by doing 2 things, you write this down. It's like 2 quick action steps. So checking the work against your exemplar. So I think it could also be appropriate if that, even if you, as a quick hit, just reminding kids of the exemplar. How does, and the kids have the questions like, take a look at the exemplar, have you getting there, like measure yourself against like that as a rubric.
Okay, so the exemplar doesn't have like information in it. It just had like the boxes formatted. So like the boxes with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 written in it, which like sometimes kids need a cue to see how to lay it out.
So I guess an additional quick hit for that, which is when you put up the exemplar, either like one, you could write the actual instructions for the graph inside of the exemplar.
Yeah, so the instructions are the handouts that each child has at their own individual station, and then they put their name in the box that they're doing, and then it has the directions and it has an example like in the box.
Awesome. So I missed that part.
That's good. that kind of comes in play more in like the sign up part, because as a group they read all of the boxes and then they decide like who does what box. Because if they were just looking at like the colors and the format, then they wouldn't really have a good understanding of like which one do I actually want to do.
Yeah. So the second one would be if you could complete the assignment before the kids, so they see like what does it look like in an ideal state,
Okay.
and then that way you can check their work against like what you already have. Like what do you ideally want to see, or is that which was that third block, third period?
That was fourth.
It was fourth. Where is there an exemplar from third period that had already been done?
Sure. Yeah.
Or even Taquasia's or Aaliyah, where I thought
Right,
like
yeah.
they had progressed.
How would you suggest doing that without like giving them the answers?
I would maybe that's like I don't think that's the concern would be giving them the answers. I think the process also really matters. So again, saying kids like this is one example of what it would look like, and I think like encouraging kids like to like individuality and bringing their own like the flavor into it, right? So
Okay.
So not like hey go up there and write it verbatim, but like here's what your final product could be. And then essentially, I don't think there's any harm in posting it, because I think if you were to do it and post your exemplar, it will be the same thing, right? We're telling kids like, hey, here's what I have, but of course, like you bring your own creativity, you bring your own, and you do the cognitive lifting, right?
Right.
And I think that's appropriate.
Okay, I see that for some of the activities, yes. That like if I was drawing a picture, obviously they wouldn't need to draw the same
Sure.
picture and they would bring themselves to it. However, with things like they had to say like 5 facts about the author, I don't know if there are 5 more different facts that they even could have found. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, like that was the reason I didn't want to like put 5 things up there, because I think that just having a numbered 5 things and then telling them you're finding 5 facts doesn't really need like an example without it telling them the answer.
So I'm trying to think of a way in which we could push that assignment even like forward a bit, so that kids would have to do a lot of the cognitive thing. Like box 1 and box 1 for sure I thought was getting there, with like allowing kids to kind of think deeply about themes and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's really hard for kids to copy that, right? Because of course it requires kids to do a certain level
Which
of lifting.
is like the differentiation piece. Like that was the hardest box, and the facts are the easiest box.
Certainly.
And ideally, like you want every kid to do every box, which is what Taquasia and Aaliyah and Natassia were doing, because they get the whole thing. But for the kids who are in here, like these are all EC kids, all of them. So like I wanted them to be able to like have the same final product that they could look at and study without like having it take like 5 days.
Because I wonder what would be the harm if even, because I think you make a great point, right? And especially when the facts are like that explicit, and just like, right, and that rigid, like here are the facts, right? Here's 5. But I'm sure that there are probably more than 5 facts that you can find out about an author.
Probably, yeah.
Certainly, but even if we assume that to be true, then potentially like leaving, like if you were to put your exemplar up and doing the first one, with the first box and the second box, and leaving the other 2 blank, and say like, hey guys, right here 5 facts, right?
Okay, I see.
So that, and that's just quick. That's like premature thinking. So again, you can continue to juxtapose like, here's your exemplar and here's like what you have so far.
Okay.
And I think that'll allow you to like aggressively monitor in the moment a lot better.
Okay. I see.
So I think just continue to like check the work against the exemplar, and again, so the kids know like how am I progressing? Like, am I on the right track? And then like in the moment you can get really quick feedback, and not like intense feedback where you lose focus and not be able to circulate and serve other kids.
Okay.
But mostly like how does it look against the exemplar? Are you making progress? And then that way you can, it leads us to the second action step. You can actually give like these students like very concrete expectations for what they should be doing at that time.
Okay.
And I think those two go hand in hand. right? So as you're walking around and you're aggressively monitoring, you're able to